We've got Trump taking the stand in one of his many trials. It's election day. Molly Jong-Fast does the podcast Fast Politics. She writes a weekly newsletter for Vanity Fair where she's a special correspondent, and she helps us understand complicated things better. Thank you, Molly, for making the time for us. Let me start with what I was talking about before you came on, $5. Can you tell us what faith you have in polling, given what the last 10 years of polling have revealed?
I think we should look back to the 2022 red wave, which did not materialize. I don't have a huge faith in polling. Again, this was this big poll that got everyone hysterical from the New York Times. 3,600, I think, was the number of people called on cell phones and landlines. I don't know. Do you pick up unknown numbers on your phone? I don't give it a lot of. Let me rephrase that. I think it's good to worry, and Democrats love to worry, and there's going to be a lot of good worrying going on in the next year. But I do not think these polls are something you could take to the bank.
Can you please help me understand that? Because historically, a lot of people pay a lot of money for this information. And until recently, this was information that you can trust. I don't know when that fell apart, how that fell apart. Did it fall apart because of the way that people answer their phone differently than they used to, or because they always lie when taking polls and they act differently when it comes time to vote?
Well, I think you're right, Dan, and I think there are a couple of factors that do add to this polling problem, and some of it is that people don't answer their phones. There aren't home phones. There isn't this culture of we used to have Nielsen boxes. I mean, we were in a different world where there was a lot of you were a consumer, you gave data to companies in a very deliberate way. Now you give data to companies in a very undeliberate way. But the thing I would say about these polls is there are trend lines that are important for the Biden administration and, more importantly, the Biden campaign to watch. And those trend lines are young voters, Hispanic voters, young Black voters. Those are the voters that Democrats need to make sure that they are serving, that they are reaching out to. And that's stuff like student loan debt, and that's stuff like, greater accountability in government. I mean, there are things you can do to appeal to those voters. And I think Biden has been trying to. Again, it's early days, but the trend lines, I mean, certainly, if you look at those polls, the Nevada numbers, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Those numbers those are bad numbers for Biden. So that certainly shows that he is not doing what he should be doing with younger Hispanic voters.
Let me understand, though, beyond the polling, okay, how you can have 91 felony charges beyond the polling and have me thinking that I still think America might vote for this person. How is that possible?
So two things. One, Donald Trump, and I actually had John Carl on my podcast. We were just talking about this. Donald Trump has not gotten a lot of media scrutiny over the last year, and he hasn't gotten as much coverage. So we haven't seen, we've seen the court cases, and we've seen the situations around Trump get coverage, but we haven't seen so much of the sort of Trump on the stump stuff. And if you listen to that, you're pretty horrified. So I do think some of this is that he just hasn't been in the spotlight. I think when he's more in the spotlight, people will sort of remember a lot of the craziness. One of the things that's really clear, as I have watched a lot of Trump rallies, is that he's really lost a step. Even 3 years ago, he made a lot more sense. And because he speaks so quickly and freely and unscripted, he really does, you see him not knowing what state he's in, not knowing, where he is. There's a lot of that kind of stuff, which if he's going to go after Biden for being old, that's not going to do well for him.
Helping himself or hurting himself on the stand?
Again, he helps himself with primary voters because primary voters see the world the way he does. I'm not sure that screaming at a judge is going to help you when the judge is about to decide the penalty in your civil trial. For me, I would not scream at the judge who was deciding my fate, but that's just me.
What is the path for him to make any kind of gains when it comes to independence? Like, what is the company line there to attract independence? Because it seems by doubling down on the behavior that kind of turned him away the last time, that he's not going to make any progress there.
Well, that's the big question, right? Does a soccer mom in Arizona really care about Trump's retribution for his federal charges in a New York State courtroom? I'm not convinced that that's a winning message for swing state voters who are, look, swing state voters are concerned with the economy, with inflation, with the sort of foreign wars more generally. I don't think they necessarily care if Ivanka has to go on the stand or not.
How much do you think Biden's age will impact this election?
Again, my thinking was always that if Biden were running against someone like Ron DeSantis, it would be really a problem for him, right? Because Ron DeSantis is 45 years old. And, he may or may not wear lifts, but he is 45, right? He's a younger guy. Whereas, again, this is not a criticism of wearing lifts. Good for him. But but he's running against someone who's 78 or 77 so I think Trump making this case against Biden for being old when also being old he's not going to be able to sell it.
Does the Democratic Party have a better viable alternative to Biden?
So this is like the $24 billion question is like, could you pull? Biden did really well, and Biden has been always underestimated. Do I love Biden? I don't know that voters are obsessed with him the way they might have been with an Obama or even a Bill Clinton, right? Or JFK. Junior, JFK Senior, sorry. There are politicians that are these kind of figures, these important sort of spiritual figures in American life. Joe Biden is not one of those politicians. But he was able to put together a lot of voters, and he read in a way that was a sort of traditional politician. If Biden had said that he wasn't going to run and you ran a full, you could do it. But I just think that it doesn't. I think it's going to have a very divided Democratic Party, and ultimately you have an incumbent. And why sacrifice incumbency?
How much will Robert Kennedy Jr. affect the race?
So he's an interesting candidate because I think a lot of the people who supported him hoped that he would hurt Biden. But a lot of his policies are very Republican policies, right? Like the anti-vax stuff has turned from a liberal thing to a conservative thing. He's anti, he wants to steal the border, right? That's not a very Democratic policy. He's got a lot of stuff that seems really, really Republican. And in fact, there's polling, and again, polling, we're going to take it with a grain of salt, but there's some polling that shows that he actually pulls from Trump. And it would make sense because he has a lot of Trump's policies.
Why does Cornell West believe he's going to win the presidency?
Cornell West is like a very smart guy and an important activist. This really bums me out. Look, do I wish that there were a really smart Black activist in this presidential race or any presidential race? Yes. But do I think he's the person for it? Probably not. And it's really a bummer because he's really done so much good work and is very, very smart and interesting and important and a really important voice. But this is probably not his moment.
The next Republican debate is in Miami here tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah.
You're expecting what?
I'm expecting what we've seen in the last two, which is a whole lot of nothing, right? Got 5 candidates on the stage, none of whom are polling at more than 10, none of them are polling at double digits. The front runner is doing counter programming somewhere else. it's all undercard, right? If you have no one who is possibly going to get the nomination, then that makes me think it's all undercard.
You're mortified that we can't do better than this, correct? Let's just lay it out there. Let's step back from everything that's happening here. You aspiring to be an object, virtue, fairness person, you're mortified. Right. We've arrived at a level of such extremes in stupidity that what you're watching is actively stupid, is it not?
I mean, yes, but they nominated a reality television host. And I want to say, like, yes, it's stupid, but we have a long history of doing stupid stuff in this country. So I would this is not new. We have done many stupid things in this country. We will likely continue to do stupid stuff. All I want is democracy to continue. It doesn't have to be anyone's first choice, but the stakes are quite high in this election. It's not like a 1990s election where one guy, wears a brown tie and the other guy wears a red tie, and we're talking about the merits of that. I mean, this is the big one, and so it's
such a low bar. It's
yes.
just please, by 2024, allow freedom to not be gone.
Yes,
I mean,
I don't want to move out of the country.
Okay,
so please,
good. That's where we are. Excellent. That's where we are. Fast politics. You want to know how fast? This fast. We just want to stay free.
That's right.
Such a bare minimum ask, and I'm not sure we're going to achieve it. And neither's Molly.
Yep.
You don't know, Molly. You don't know. If I make you guess right now and be right, you don't know.
I mean, I certainly hope that democracy keeps going, because I don't love Trump is getting ready for a retribution tour, and the stuff he's got planned seems, I don't want to go to Gitmo,
All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
I don't want to go to Gitmo. All right. I'm hoping democracy doesn't fall. All right. Yeah, you mentioned that. Just mortifying.